It's one of my favorite events that I've ever been to, DC Podfest. It's really taught me the love of the regional and local event. Jennifer, welcome back to Livestream Deals.
Oh, thanks, Ross. It's great to be back again. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, so I had an amazing time last year. It was so great having everybody close together, just a few different rooms going on. You got a chance to spend real quality time with the different attendees and speakers. What's on tap for this year, 2020, 2019? I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get the predictions for 2020 next time you and I talk. But for 2019 DC Podfest, what is on tap?
Well, it's our 5th year, so we feel a little pressure to really do something special, and I think that's coming together. I think we're going to accomplish that. For the first time, we have a VIP ticket this year, which includes a VIP party. And also a really spectacular kickoff party, which is for everybody, all the ticket holders. That's Friday night. Saturday, in addition to an incredible lineup of speakers, we have intensives, we have workshops. It's always important to me to have some interactive sessions so that people aren't just sort of sitting and listening and being talked at all day. I think it's really great if you can get some hands-on activities. So I think we've peppered the program with some of that. And then we added something that we're calling Expert Alley this year. And this is where we are going to have a big area with several tables where we're going to have subject experts stationed. So it's an opportunity for podcasters to meet one-on-one with these experts or in very small groups. So get really personalized attention. And a lot of our speakers are actually participating. So it's an opportunity to sort of learn from them in a broad spectrum sort of atmosphere, but then drill down with them one-on-one to see how you can apply what you've learned specifically to your situation. So I think that's going to be really spectacular. We have PRX Garage has come to DC. They did a grand opening at their studio facility in Washington, D.C. We've become friendly with them, and they are doing our podcast recording studio. So people will be able to record on site with the people that they've met, maybe a guest, or maybe they'll create a podcast, a brand new one on the spot. I mean, pretty much anything is possible at DC Podfest.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, there's attendees of all different levels. So you have people who are just getting started and need that extra boost to do their first few episodes. And then there are very experienced podcasters who are making connections and refining their skills. Talk a little bit more about that Expert Alley. I love the sound of that. What are some of the specialties that people are going to be bringing to Expert Alley?
Yeah, so we have some experts in general, like podcasting 101 sort of subject experts that are there for people who are, like you said, just getting started and sort of need all of those basic beginner questions answered, like where should I host? What's an RSS feed? No question is too small. Go ahead and ask them. It'll be kind of private, so nobody will hear you.
We've all been through those questions.
We've all been. I still have questions. I'm always learning. It's an evolving medium. But there will also be subject experts on branding, legal issues, marketing, social media, video, content creation, all sorts of experts. And we're still adding to Expert Alley. I'm kind of, I've actually got to do a site visit and map out the arrangement of the Expert Alley. So I want to make sure we can fit everybody in comfortably. But we're sort of excited about that. And it's interesting. I was looking at the attendee list just the other day, and you mentioned it's a regional conference. We do draw people from outside of DC, but I think it definitely is showing the spirit of our area. I noticed the Secret Service has a podcast, and they are going to be at DC Podfest. The National Park Service has a podcast, or the National Parks and Recreation Organization has a podcast, and they're going to be at DC Podfest. So So there are going to be some sort of big names and organizations there that are very DC centric. So I think it's going to be really exciting. It's such a mix of people doing podcasts, so that's always fun.
Well, the FOMO meter is just going off the charts for me. I unfortunately won't be able to make it this year, but I plan on being every year. I got to say that even though I can't go this year, I recommend DC Podfest as strongly as anything that I've recommended on the show. It is a tremendous event. I had a wonderful, wonderful experience last year. Who are a few of the speakers that you're looking forward to? Maybe some new names or maybe some old favorites who are coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in terms of old favorites, we have Dave Jackson
Mhm.
back, and I think this might be his fourth year with us. And he's a real crowd favorite. He's really well respected within the podcast industry, but he's also just a super nice guy who
Yeah.
happens to be really funny. So he's doing a talk that he hasn't done at DC Podfest before. He's going to be talking about where you should actually submit your podcast,
Oh,
because it can be overwhelming, all of these directories that we can submit our podcast, and it can also be time consuming. So he's kind of going to obliterate the myths that you have to be everywhere, I think, and kind of really be honest about which directories are a good use of your time and which might be a waste of your time. So I always like that. We have Ebony Bell is our keynote. We just have one keynote this year. I kept it really simple, but
right.
Ebony is a local media company producer. She has Tag Magazine, which is a LBGTQ publication. She's really active. She's been a very strong voice for that community, both with her magazine and the related podcast. And so she's going to talk about how we can talk about and include diversity in our media, and not make a misstep by doing something called tokenizing, which I think it's an important subject for everybody, no matter
Right.
what you're putting out there. So I think that's going to be a really good start, and really kind of set the tone and sort of the depth of the content. We also have somebody who is talking about how to take the skill of podcasting that you have developed and expand upon it by becoming voice talent. So,
Oh,
how
wow.
podcasters can get paid by being voice talent in other ways. So, she's going to teach us about that. Her name is Durie Allen Neves. I'm really excited about that. We have Andrea Jones, and she is a social media expert, and she's going to be talking about taking the overwhelm out of social media. And when she applied to speak, I really that title really spoke to me, because it's something. Yeah, we run a monthly podcasting meetup, and this is a topic that comes up all the time.
Mm,
People, they know they need to talk about their podcast on social media, but it's completely overwhelming. And so
right.
she's going to help us, streamline it, but also be effective. Oh my gosh, we have so many speakers. I don't even know where to start.
I
um,
assume my friend Rebecca Gunter will be speaking. She
oh my
she
gosh, yes.
she blew the doors off last year, and so I stayed in touch with her, and we've become good friends since then.
You did. Oh, she is a good friend of mine, and I respect her so much. She's on the main stage this year. She's
Oh,
going to
good.
talk about positioning your podcast, and that has a lot to do with how you position your brand. And she's also one of our subject experts in Expert Alley. So she's one of these people that is super, super generous with her knowledge. And last year, she did some one-on-one branding guidance with our attendees, and they were blown away. Like, it was just, what the advice that she gave was game changing. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited to have her be involved even more this year.
Tell us about the venue. You picked such interesting venues last year, in Arlington Spaces, and you have a
Mhm.
new venue this year.
Yeah, so I like Spaces. Spaces is a co-working space, a really decked out one, and very cool. But they were not available for events this year in 2019, so we had to move. So we're in the American Institute of Architecture building, and they actually do events there. So they're set up really nicely. They had for me as an event organizer, they had
Right,
built-in audiovisual, and that's huge because we didn't have that last year, which meant it was quite a hefty expense for our small conference to bring in audiovisual equipment.
right.
And it's also, since it's not built in, things can happen, things that go wrong. So anyway, so that's all built in here, nice and slick. And it's also a really cool building. It's 2 floors, and there's a 2-floor wall of glass. There's an outdoor courtyard, so which is sort of isolated. It's very private. So we have that outdoor space, lots of light. It's got a lot of character. Because we're a smaller conference, I try to keep us out of traditional like hotel conference
Right.
areas, and so we try to look for sort of non-traditional venues, because we like to give our event a little extra character by being in these interesting spaces. And we're fortunate enough to live in a major city with lots of interesting spaces. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it really makes the event memorable, having a space that's different from typical hotel ballroom or hotel, conference area. We're talking with Jennifer Crawford. She is the founder of DC Podfest, which is coming up in early November. Tickets still do remain. We had wanted to do a giveaway, and so if you're interested, Jennifer's giving away 1 ticket. Go ahead and throw in the chat what you're doing with podcasting or would like to do, why you think you could benefit from attending this event, and later we'll go in and we'll pick one lucky viewer to have an opportunity to go to DC Podfest. And also, Jennifer was nice enough to bring a special offer for our Livestream Deals viewers to save $40 on tickets, and you just use ROSSFAN, 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 and you can save $40 on your ticket to DC Podfest. So thank you so much for your generosity, Jennifer. What do you think are the hot topics now in podcasting each year? We always talk about podcasting on the rise. How are people going to monetize it? What's kind of hot and different this year from perhaps past years, that people, there seems to be a buzz around in the industry?
I think, this has always been a hot topic, but I think it's just keeps gaining steam, and that is monetization.
Right.
People are very curious. Of course, they've heard success stories, and they just, they have such a passion for the medium that it's, a dream come true if they could actually monetize doing something that they love. So there's a lot of questions. I think the scope of how to monetize has broadened, and interest in podcasting from corporate or business America has also broadened. And so I think there are more opportunities. Um, with that said, I think you also have to be realistic. I think most
Right.
podcasts are not going to make a lot of money. Um, so we'll see. I think it's going to be an interesting, I think how things are developing are really interesting. And I think it's also resulting in better content. I
Yeah.
think podcasts are really honing their craft and taking it more seriously. It was so kind of punk rock and sort of underground for so long, and now that it's quote unquote getting the respect it deserves, I think now it's people are there's a new respect
Mm.
to the medium brought to the table by both the creators and, say, the financial supporters like the advertisers.
With the growth of corporate podcasting, have you noticed opportunities coming along for independent podcasters, or are you seeing that corporations are either using their in-house talent or hiring more established media personalities.
I think there are some opportunities there for sure. You might not know this, but I work very closely with companies on behalf of Podbean for internal podcasting.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm actually, well, I can make an announcement here, right? I mean,
Okay.
it's a
Oh,
soft, it's a,
we love to
you're
break
like,
news.
okay. I mean, I didn't plan this, but it just kind of came up naturally in conversation. So I'm planning October 1st, 2020. This is a soft announcement because things still need to be ironed out, but I'm producing another podcasting conference. It's called Podcast Inc.
Okay.
And it's going to be all about internal podcasting. So, podcasting within the realm of corporate America, how they're using podcasts to improve communication, internal training, micro learning, and employee engagement. So it's really actually exciting
Wow.
what's happening internally. And in terms of promoting content and producing content, there are a lot of the same, a lot of the same infrastructure and needs are there, but there's it's a very closed ecosystem.
Right.
So, and then of course, a lot of those companies are also producing external podcasts. So that's their marketing arm. And some of the bigger ones are being very creative. They're using storytelling and all sorts of creative production so that it's not a commercial, it's actually entertainment, but it represents their company in such an interesting light that the byproduct of that podcast is increased business and really great marketing. So I think it's actually a topic that I
Fascinating.
just love so much, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking in several levels, both from the marketing side, but also I have an HR background, so I'm thinking about the
Mhm.
internal podcasting and employee engagement and all those areas. So it's fascinating, and I
It
can't
is.
wait to hear more about it and see how it develops. Thank you for mentioning it. You heard it here first.
I know. Well,
It's
now I really have to make it happen. So October
Podcast
1st,
Inc.
2020.
Podcast Inc.
Podcast Inc. Yeah, it's going to be a one-day conference, obviously for corporate America who wants to learn how to produce an internal podcast and all the benefits of internal podcasting. So it has some great advantages because it's a closed ecosystem. We're able to provide data on the individual user, so we can tell you how each individual listener is interacting or engaging with each piece of content. So
Wow.
companies can take that data and correlate it to the success of sales initiatives or training programs. So it's pretty powerful stuff.
That's terrific. That's so fascinating. Well, DC Podfest, you know that she's on top of what's going on in the industry. Jennifer Crawford runs DC Podfest, and it's a wonderful event again in November 1st and November 2nd, I believe.
Yeah,
Right.
November 1st, the evening, and then all day November 2nd. You're going to be exhausted by the end of it. But guess what? It doesn't happen on Sunday. We purposely do not book anything on Sunday because we want people to have time to rest and absorb everything and also get home to wherever they're going. So,
Do their vlogs afterwards.
well, or just enjoy the city. I mean, DC is this venue is very close to the White House. It's right in the thick of things. DC, save some time to visit the city. All of our museums and our zoo is free. Take advantage, and it's just a beautiful, amazing city to visit.
Well, terrific. Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's DC Podfest. You can save $40. ROSSFAN as one word, ROSSFAN, for tickets to DC Podfest. And you can find all the products and services that we discuss on Livestream Deals on the homepage at livestreamdeals.com. You'll see this towards the top, and you can click on through, take a look at what's going on with DC Podfest, and get your ticket. It's a great event. Thanks, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you so much, Ross. Talk to you later.